36 hours without sleeping. Yeah, I'm seeing things, but it doesn't matter because when he pops out, this spider that's under my bed living around here, when he pops out, I'm ready and I'm going to take control of it. So until then, yeah, we're just soldiering on through it. But anyways, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, basically, this is just a spider the size of my hand, my head, that could probably eat me alive, just living right under my bed. So we'll just ignore that anyways and move on to the topic of the video, the Miami Heat, and how they've managed to flip the script on everyone who is writing them off after a slow start to the season. A slow start to the season, which I mentioned, and I know a lot of other people mentioned, that was largely down to protocol. That's what it was down to, protocol. There's not too many other things you can say about it. Jimmy Butler was missing for 10 straight games. 2 of Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo were missing in action. And during those 10 games, they went 2-8. So it's no secret why they started the season 6-12. It was because they missed their best players in those games. It wasn't because they're bubble frauds. It wasn't because Jimmy Buckets isn't that good, even though he was missing games. It wasn't because Tyler Hero's overrated. It wasn't all of these things. No. It was literally just because they were missing players like other teams, but they really got hit hard. All of a sudden, they've got healthy, and, well, the team that made the finals last year, the team that beat the Milwaukee Bucks, the team that beat the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers and did so quite comfortably against a few of those series, is all of a sudden back towards the top of the East and have been one of the best teams in the NBA since getting healthy, and been one of the best, actually the best defense in the NBA since getting healthy. Oh, it's crazy that has happened. Anyways, before I talk about how they've become an elite team yet again, how they've become the best defense in the NBA, and how Jimmy Butler is potentially an MVP candidate, if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, it's free, it helps out a lot. I make content like this every single day, and you might enjoy it, you might not, it's still free, so it would be appreciated. But anyways, moving on, as you saw in the title, 2 major things have changed for Miami over their resurgence to the top of the Eastern Conference standings, and, well, one of those things is the health of their whole team, but mainly the health of Jimmy G. Buckets, the leader of the team, an MVP candidate right now. Jimmy G. Buckets has come back and changed this team's dynamic. And another thing has been them stepping up defensively. They've become the number 1 ranked defense over the last 21 games. And over that time, they've had a record of 15-6, which is good for second in the NBA. This is the time period in which Jimmy Butler has been playing. It's just been a flip of the switch for the Miami Heat, and a lot of it comes down to Jimmy Butler, a lot of it comes down to their defense. Now, before we talk about their defense, let's talk about Jimmy Buckets, because yes, he's been getting quite a lot of press recently. Is he an MVP candidate, an MVP smoky? I don't know yet. It's still early in the season. He did miss a lot of games. You can't doubt the impact he's made. I don't really know the criteria of the MVP. I just think guys like Jokic are obviously having historically good seasons, so it's going to be hard for him to catch him. You just can't deny he's having one of the top 5 most influential seasons in the league, I'd say, around that mix. Whether that results in an MVP trophy, I don't think so, because he's missed a lot of games, and a lot of other players are having such great seasons, but you just can't deny his impact. People have talked about the numbers. Oh, the numbers aren't that great. Was he overrated because of the bubble? People talked about that when he started the season. Slowly, all of a sudden, he got hit with the virus. He lost 10 pounds. He came back after missing 10 straight games, and he's been averaging 23, 9, and 8 on good efficiency and a ridiculously good assist to turnover ratio, becoming one of the better playmakers in the league. What he does is he drives to the rim. He's often too big for guards, so they tend to double team him, and then he'll kick it out to an open shooter. He'll attack the rim, and then he'll drop it off to a big rolling to the rim, or kick it out to a shooter. He just makes the right decisions consistently on both ends of the floor, and there's a reason that he's changed the dynamic of this Miami Heat team. It's not just because of how talented he is, it's just because of his decision making, it's because of his leadership, it's because of how vocal he is. It's just so many things that go into why Jimmy Butler is the catalyst for this Heat team going from mediocre, below mediocre, to now one of the best teams in the NBA. It's not just been Jimmy Butler, they've also had other players get back healthy, but he's been the major reason for it, and he does deserve MVP kind of conversations. Now, just from a play perspective, Jimmy is doing Jimmy things. I think he's probably having his best season yet, though, so maybe it's not just Jimmy things. He's elevated his playmaking. His scoring is similar to his best scoring year in Chicago just a few years back. So he's pretty much doing everything at the same level in every aspect. And then obviously his playmaking has taken a huge leap as he's taken on more responsibility and decided to just carry this team to several wins. But things that just can't be measured with Jimmy Butler are reasons why people find him so valuable, and are reasons why when you look at his numbers and see what he's 25th in scoring or something over this last 21 games, he's not the number one playmaker in the league. He's not the number one at probably any of those things, but he does so many things well. And more importantly, him being vocal, him taking on the assignment of getting buckets late in a game, like against the Pelicans a few weeks ago. He took it down the stretch and consistently made shot after shot. Against the Magic just a couple of nights ago, Terrence Ross was cooking. He took the assignment of taking on that job and kept him quiet the last few minutes, including getting the game-winning steal. He does those kind of things. You also can't underestimate him being a vocal leader. He gets people into position. He's the kind of guy that is setting the example for this team defensively, and he's a major reason why they've been able to flip the switch. What we often forget is defense is pretty much always off ball. There's only certain times in the game where you're an on-ball defender. Most of the time you spend off the ball, so you need the vocal, you need the communications, you need people being in the right spot. So having Jimmy Butler on the floor at the same time definitely helps their defense more than you just see in the stats. Well, the stats obviously reflect it, but more than you just see in his individual statistics. But outside of just getting Jimmy back and having his leadership and his impact, what have the Heat done as a team to get better defensively? Because they weren't particularly good to start the season. They were 22nd in defensive rating, something they've always been pretty good at under Eric Spoelstra, and something that they prided themselves on last year with Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and a hard-nosed team. Well, they've got back to the basics. To start the season, they were a liability rebounding the ball, the worst team in the league rebounding the ball. They weren't securing boards. Now all of a sudden, they're back to middle of the pack. A lot of this comes down to energy. I think you have to consider another thing that I didn't even mention before is they only had a short preseason, a very short turnaround. There's definitely a fatigue factor. Maybe they needed to warm into the season. Maybe they started slowly. They didn't have the motivation, the levels of confidence. Jimmy Butler wasn't in the lineup. He's a good rebounder for his size. Just a number of factors that led to them being kind of a terrible rebounding team. That's what it led to. Now all of a sudden you get him back and they're back to middle of the pack rebounding the ball. Another thing they've addressed is the turnover issue. Again, right at the bottom of the league in turnovers through the first 20 games. Recently, they've managed to bring back their best and most capable ball handlers. I think this is a more pretty self-explanatory reason for their turnovers going down. You bring back Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. All of these guys get more consistent game time, and all of a sudden, you turn the ball over less. I mean, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic. I think you know why their turnover issues have gone down, but regardless of it, they have gone down, and a difference of over 7 points a game in terms of points off turnovers for the opposition. They were giving up 22 points a game earlier in the season. It's now down to just over 14. That is a huge difference. 7 free points they were pretty much giving up that they're not giving up anymore, and that's a huge difference for them going from a 22nd ranked defense to the number 1 ranked defense. You can't underestimate something like turning over the ball and giving free possessions and free opportunities to score in transition. I think often defense can be pretty simple. You protect the paint, you rebound the ball, don't give up any easy buckets in transition or off turnovers, and then you've got yourself a respectable defense if you do all of those things. You add into the mix Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo, and all of a sudden, well, you can bring that to an elite defense. But what they're doing is the basics, and then they're relying on, at times, individual moments of brilliance from Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, but mainly the basics, rebounding the ball, preventing turnovers, and protecting the paint, and that has led to them being the best team in the NBA defensively over the last 20 or so games. It's nothing crazy. It's just things that you should be doing. They've just elevated all of those levels of play, and that's why I think it's a sustainable way of play. They have also faced some lesser teams during this stretch, so you have to keep this in mind, but regardless of that, they've done a lot of things better. When it comes to Miami, just as a defensive team, well, like I mentioned, they like to protect the paint, but something they do, unlike other teams that protect the paint, they're also pretty good at guarding the perimeter. You've got guys that can do a combination of things, like I mentioned, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, so they're pretty good at still disrupting shots on the outside, but protecting the paint just as good as anyone in the league. So that's why they've got such a good combination defensively, and why they're not a liability on either end of the floor. Some teams give up so many three-point shots and then try to prevent paint shots. Some teams give up no 3-point shots, and get killed in the paint. The Heat give up little points in the paint and are also pretty good at protecting shots from beyond the arc. That's what they do, and that's what they're doing really well. I think one more thing that you have to mention when you talk about this team, injuries are a big thing defensively, and it's not just because of the players missing, it's because of the continuity. When I talked about off-ball communications, being in the right spots, if you've got a ton of new players and new names, and you don't have a vocal guy like Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo's missing Goran Dragic, guys that are really going to be yelling and screaming to get into position, then all of a sudden, there's going to be a lot of defensive breakdowns. That's something that isn't happening as much anymore, and that's a reason why their defenses got back to their best. All of these little things are playing into the bigger picture, so not rebounding the ball, turning the ball over, doing all of these things, rebounding the ball, not turning the ball over, communicating better, getting back on defense in transition, and all of a sudden you've got a top-ranked defense. It seems quite simple, but it really has been quite simple for the Heat. They've just got everything right defensively. But outside of their defense anchoring their team, we're also seeing the danger of Miami and why they were so dangerous in the playoffs last year. It's their versatility with their options. You look at what they can pose on any given night. You've got Jimmy Butler, you've got Bam Adebayo. Bam has talked about how he needs to be more aggressive, and I think he does. He can shoot from the mid-range, he can get to the rim. He's often a mismatch for most bigs in the league in terms of offensively. Don't even get me started defensively, but offensively, he can take it to most bigs in the league, and we've seen him do it on several occasions, but sometimes he's just kind of content to not do too much. But he's talked about how he needs to be more aggressive. Once he gets more aggressive and consistently is averaging 22 to 23 points a night, then you've got Tyler Hero, who just last game went off for 20. I think he's going to gear up for the rest of the season. He had a short preseason. That can definitely take a toll on a younger player. Goran Dragic recently against the Bulls had a big performance, 25 points, won them the game, effectively sealed the game with a few huge shots. And then a silver lining from all the injuries is Kendrick Nunn has rediscovered his form. You've just got so many players that can beat you on any given night or give you 20 points, get a couple of those performances, and then get the clutch scoring, the clutch buckets, the clutch defense from Jimmy Buckets, and all of a sudden, this makes for the same Miami team that went to the finals last year. So for a team that was written off just early into the season, oh, they're bubble frauds, oh, they're no good, because no one was really putting any perspective on what they were doing. Now they're a team that's top of the league in defense over the last 21 games, and they've got the second best record over that time, and they continue to look better and better as games go on. Once Bam Adebayo gets back, once they finally get fully healthy, they've still missed players with injuries recently, even with their resurgence in form. Maybe this is the same team that goes to the finals again. A lot of people are discrediting them. They're talking about the Nets, the Bucks, the 76ers. What about the team that beat the Bucks and made it through the East last year? Are they not a threat? I think they are. If you did enjoy the video, a like would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, have a good day. Catch you next time. Bye.